I had to restart the live stream after that. It didn't work. So like, I just restarted. And we're back. Yeah. What's going on? Probably about to repack this bong up. No idea what happened. Live stream just connection just shut off and then yeah, and then it wouldn't reconnect. And even now, it's having a hard time connecting. So, if I can't get it to connect, I will see y'all later. It's just going in and out. It's just going in and out. Geeklink says, "Bro, would you want to be a feature on my channel one of these days with a trip report going off of yesterday's stream? There was a suggestion to make a report with both you and your girlfriend's perspective." Fuck yeah, yeah, that'd be dope, bro. Naughty Music. That's interesting you said that because I've thought this before. After so, Naughty Music says, "Have you tried to smoke ground up morning glory seeds? It had an interesting effect blended up with cannabis. Not sure how." The interesting thing about that is I've done some research and found out that the tribes, so like the Aztecs and the Mazatecs, used to use morning glories, and one of the ways of ingesting it was smoking it. But it had a different effect, and it was said that the effect only lasted like 1 to 2 hours or so. But I'm just really interested in, I guess, trying that out. I'm gonna have some morning glory seeds. I have some Hawaiian baby wood rose seeds. So I guess I could try it one of these days. But it's just interesting to me because I was under the assumption that the lysergamides uh, get destroyed by heat. Like, so yeah, Naughty Music. What were the effects? Um, exactly. Was it like the seeds? So was it like was there like a high? Was it like a Naughty Music says spacey, slightly trippy, followed by heavy sedation, mild closed eye visuals. It's best to hold in the smoke about 10-15 seconds, just like with DMT. So I think that's like a psychedelic thing. If you hold in the smoke, it'll work better. But that's interesting. I'm gonna have to try that and maybe figure out why that works because obviously a lot of the molecules in the seeds would get destroyed, but apparently there are some that don't, and you know, interesting. In DMT Infinity, I don't know what happened. Internet connection failed, went out, and then kept going in and out, in and out, in and out, and now here we are. Geek Links says, "Where can I get Morning Glory seeds? Like Shaman's Garden, the site, or where would you suggest?" Um, Honestly, Morning Glory seeds are so abundant, and you can get them really anywhere as long as they're untreated Morning Glory seeds. It's fine. Uh, Eventually, and see, by probably by the summer though. So my site's not going to really be up and running until the summer. But my goal is to have Morning Glory seeds, Wine Baby Woodrow seeds, a bunch of other things like San Pedro powder, and a bunch of other plants and herbs like kratom and motherwort extract and blue lotus extract and a bunch of other shit. But um, but realistically, unless you're buying major bulk, it's all about the same price. Regardless, it's pretty damn cheap. Um, but I like, for me personally, for my website, I try to go to bulk vendors, and but Naughty Music says I'm gonna grow Hawaiian Baby Wood Rose. I live on Maui. That's awesome. Because I was about to say, Hawaiian Baby Wood Rose is really hard to grow, but because you're there, you should be okay in Maui. Um, it's just really hard, but once you get it going, it's fine. It's just getting it going, and it takes a year or two, I think, for it to really be steady. More That's why morning glories are easier to whatever, because I see people here in upstate New York grow morning glories everywhere. Right in my town, if you walk down the street, like even right now, you see morning glories. So like right now in the middle of the winter, I can go down and I can basically get thousands of wild morning glory seeds. And I say wild because they've been outside for so long that the seeds, basically changed. Uber driver, what's good? Says, is San Pedro like DMT? I can't find any knowledge about it. San Pedro is, I heard this one dude say that San Pedro is like the MDMA of the jungle. So what he was meaning is, now San Pedro contains mescaline. Mescaline is the only psychedelic I have not tried next to ibogaine. But now but I've done enough research on San Pedro and peyote to understand the differences between both of them, and also understand, I guess I understand the effects of mescaline as much as I possibly could without taking it. But mescaline, if you have, it's hard to get a really strong dose of mescaline. Unless you have pure white mescaline, it's hard to generally get a powerful dose because of the nausea. It can make you nauseous, and a lot of people can't ingest enough of it. But if you can brew a strong enough tea, um, make an extract with that tea, or find a way to just get the pure white mescaline, you'll have a much stronger experience. But if not, then the San Pedro experience is basically a feel experience. There are slight closed eye visuals. You can travel, kind of like you can travel with uh, psychedelic mushrooms, or you could travel with Hawaiian Woodrow seeds or LSA. You can closed eye visual travel, but not really as much unless you do high doses. So it's more of a, you're energized, it lasts, like 12 hours or so. Um, but for the most part, it's very, I've basically heard that it's the lightest psychedelic of them all, really, if you comparing the natural psychedelics, that mescaline is just a little more easier to handle. But that also could just be because people don't take high enough doses. So, but my goal is this year to explore with San Pedro and mescaline, uh, to go from there. The Soma Alchemy podcast says skull cap extract crystallizes like motherwort does, FYI. Very potent stuff if you be careful, but what a great plant, very similar to cannabis. That's interesting. I'll have to try that. I've done a lot of research on skull cap. It was just the safety of it didn't match up to the safety of motherwort. So like motherwort extract, it crystallized, it's very potent. Um Shit, it's so potent you can crush it up, use it as a snuff. It's very potent. But it's just, yeah, it's one of those things that I would research. When I researched the molecules in skull cap, some of the molecules were like slight red flags. So I'll just reevaluate the molecules, and reevaluate the LD50, the safety, the receptors, go from there. And yeah. But kind of just like I did with the Boldo leaf. I'm pretty sure the Boldo leaf is a little more dangerous because of the fact that the oils in it is toxic. So, Mysterious Noob Life, what's going on? Geeklink says, "Bro, I got beef with another YouTuber who's bigger than me and has an inflated ego. Would send him memes on Snap and he blocked me because he said I was bothering him. Then I criticized his Discord server because he is inactive other than posting video updates. I don't know what his deal is." Now, some bluntly honest, playing devil's advocate, right? Playing from both sides. So I guess I'll go from your side first, which is, you know, I guess a lot of times, sometimes YouTubers when they get big, the ego can get inflated, because you don't know necessarily what it's like to be a giant YouTuber, and neither do I. So like, we don't know how our egos are going to be if we had 1 million subscribers, or if we had $1 million, or if we had, you know, sometimes you can get out of control or whatever, and it's not always necessarily your fault. It's just sometimes, um, shit happens. But then to play devil's advocate is maybe in a sense maybe you were bothering him. It's a fucked up world we're living in, but some people genuinely don't like to be bothered. Some people, we're all just different humans, and I just understand because I've talked to many different people. But and yeah, even if you're because you say you're just making jokes, and that's dope, but like some, and you say he took it seriously, and some people, especially with the internet, and because we're not speaking a lot of times, we're not using our mouth. So a lot of times, because we're not using our mouths, and we're writing or typing or using memes or whatever, sometimes there's miscommunications or misunderstandings of what we're trying to say. But yeah, or sometimes people's personalities are not joking, right? Like me personally, I'm a very serious type of guy. Like I can joke, I can laugh, I'm pretty, whatever the fuck. But like I'm pretty serious for the most part. But I guess it's just everyone's different. So like, and everyone's going through different shit. We don't know what people are going through in their personal life. Uh, so like, you know, Mysterious Noob Life says David Sinclair is a Harvard medical scientist, big into anti aging. They made mice old and reversed that and made them young again. Cool things happening these days in this realm. That's fucking awesome, for one. Science is making giant leaps right now in human history, uh, on so many different aspects, from aging, because I was researching this aging thing a long time ago when they were talking about aging is kind of like a defect of the human species, and that aging is kind of like a disease. And eventually they're going to learn how to get rid of that disease, and that the way we look right now, basically the way I look right now, in the future, if I was a future human, that this will be the way I look when I'm 85 years old, because aging is, like I said, kind of like a disease. It's like a defect, and they're trying to figure out a way to reverse it and get rid of it. But apparently, they're already fucking there, so that's awesome. But also, with the awesomeness, it's also a little worrisome because, like, to think about that, my grandchildren might be looking like they're 25 when they're 75 is a very weird and scary and interesting thing. But Mysterious Noob Life says, still gotta get that San Pedro. I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to the ketamine clinic to reheal my synapses from all the kratom damage. Yeah, that's crazy that you can do that nowadays in this world. Um, I was thinking about, so I'm going to be trying ketamine the other way. Uh, I'm going to be getting some ketamine and then trying it, but that'll be pretty interesting to try, because of all the things I've researched about it, and I'm really interested in the traveling aspect of it. The fact that at high doses you can fucking travel, you can leave your body, go into other worlds, like, and that's fucking interesting. And that's the K hole. A lot of people are scared of the K hole, but like I said, I'm looking into it to try to explore, and maybe explore with some of the low doses too, just to explore with it in general. says we were good friends too, but literally as soon as he blew up, he changed. And when you blow up, you don't change, or when you get rich, you don't change. You get revealed. And the crazy thing about life is give someone give someone $1 million, and if they changed, they were basically fake the whole time. Uh, because really what the money should do, or really what the fame should do, or really what, if you become a big YouTuber or all that other shit, what these things should do is amplify you. It should turn the volume up on you, whoever you are, or whatever you are, however your personality is. Your personality just gets turned up. But some people, you'll look at them and be like, holy shit, they changed. And it's not that they changed, it's that they weren't being as real with you as they are behind closed doors type shit. So Mysterious Noob Life, I wouldn't necessarily say the dopamine receptors get fried from kratom. I would say more the opioid receptors, and because the opioid receptors work more with the endorphins, with the endorphins than the dopamine receptors, because the endorphins are in endogenous morphines, basically endogenous opioids. And it's interesting because I've used kratom for years, for 3 years, and like I get it. But for me, I just used other plants, but ketamine works too. And there's so many other molecules and things that can help rebalance your thing. But the problem with ketamine is, honestly, I would say ketamine is more neurologically damaging to the brain than kratom. Ketamine, because it attaches to the NMDA receptor and the way it does, there is what do they call it? Possibilities that it can cause damage to the neurons and damage, so it's just one of those weird things, because just like with MDMA, MDMA is being used in psychoactive therapy, but at the same time, heavy MDMA use can cause uh, damage to the serotonin receptors. So this is a weird thing where, like, the same thing with ketamine, there is good as long as these things are used correctly. That's why with the ketamine they have the clinics and things, so people aren't abusing it, so they don't damage their receptors. Because same thing with MDMA, that's why they're not giving MDMA out in a pill and things, because then you will have more of a risk of doing damage instead of doing good. But it's just all about the dosage. It's all about how much you take the substance, why you're taking the substance, how you take the substance. Because that old saying is the truest fucking saying when it comes to drugs, that the difference between a medicine and a poison is the dose. That's just the truest old saying when it comes to substances and drugs. And then, like, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. That's another one where it's like, you know, there are many foods that have really good molecules in them as well. Um, Geek Thing says, honestly, I think Suboxone has fried my mu and kappa opioid receptors. Um, honestly, I don't necessarily think these things fry them. I just think it takes a while to reset them. Um, with cannabis, it only takes 3 days to reset your, uh, in a sense, cannabinoid receptors. You know, for your brain to start reproducing its own natural cannabinoids. But with opioids, it's not necessarily that it's causing damage like MDMA can, or like some of these other things can. It's more that the opioid receptors, when fired off for a long period of time, your body kind of forgets how to create its own um you know its own natural endorphins. So it almost feels like it doesn't need to, because it really doesn't, because it has its, whatever you're giving it, whether it's kratom, or some other synthetic opioid, or whether it's morphine or something. But it's all about, for me, when I stopped using kratom, I stopped using kratom for a year and a half, and it took me about uh I can say honestly about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to feel fine. But in that 2 to 3 weeks, I was using canna, I was using, a few other plants and herbs, like motherwort, canna, making certain mixtures with these things to help me kind of just get through and feel fine until that 3 weeks was up. But problem is with opioids is a lot of people can't last 3 weeks with no opioids. So like me going 3 weeks with no opioids was pretty hard, because honestly, the first week I didn't do it. The first week I was on Mitragyn and Javanica. I was taking Mitragyn and Hirsuta, and they contain molecules related to kratom, related to Mitragyn, that also attach the opioid receptor, just not as strong as Mitragyn. So I kept just basically taking a molecule that attached to the opioid receptor in a weaker way until I didn't need it. So then I used canna and motherwort, and then eventually I just stopped using kratom. But let me tell you, now that I have kind of have a lot of experiences with LSD, uh, honestly, there's nothing like better than LSD to help reset my receptors or reset my feel good chemicals or whatever. Um, After a strong uh, I don't even know, like anywhere from 700 to like 1200 micrograms of LSD. Uh, After that dose, I'm great. So like I can basically not use kratom, but I took LSD the other day and I fucked up because I took kratom, just to stay awake through the day because I took it at night, and kind of fucked up because now here I am taking kratom, but it's fine because I don't really. It's not really a problem for me or an issue. It's just more of a um I've never been addicted to any other um opioid. I've tried other opioids, but so that's why I'm like I don't mind being addicted to kratom because at least it's a plant. But wish you streamed when I was on L, dude. Friend ruined my trip and got in a fit with me about being an addict and taking drugs like LSD, saying it was a problem. Um, I'm a content producer. Geeklink says, made this decision on 800 micrograms. Something I've realized is if you come up with an idea or make a decision on psychedelics, think about that decision when you're sober as fuck the next day. And if that decision is correct, now this is an old Greek idea. Like the Greek philosophers, in a sense, when, if the idea was good when you're intoxicated and the idea was good when you're sober, then it was a good idea. Mysterious Noob Life says, Pure Tam has a few dozen compounds in it that make you feel some kind of way, so that's why you feel so depressed and horrible, unmotivated for like 20 days off Kratom. Mysterious Noob Life says, I got 1P LSD, just can't find the right microdose. Um, I don't really like to microdose because I don't really see necessarily a point unless I'm just so fucking tired that I can't really stay awake through the day or I have something to do and it's hard for me to just, I got really little sleep or something. But I used to microdose, but really I would just split a hit in half or take a hit and cut it in fourths. But really, a microdose should be smaller than that because the hits I have are very strong. So, but one thing that a lot of people don't realize and I guess there's something that people don't talk about. So, there is a difference between 1P LSD and LSD 25. And then there's a difference between ALD 52 and 1P LSD and ALD 52 and LSD 25. Uh, I've had experiences with 1P LSD and I've had experiences with LSD 25. LSD 25 has just more 60s ness about it. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a little more history of the 60s involved in the thing. And 1P LSD is slightly different, just ever so slightly. You can barely tell the difference. If you don't really pay attention, you wouldn't really tell the difference. But just from experiences of me just literally just staring at the ceiling or staring at the wall and generally analyzing the visuals and the way it's coming on and how it's feeling, and let's just say LSD 25 tends to be a little more, just a little more. I don't know. But all of them, all of the Sergamites, all the things that I've tried so far, from 1P LSD to regular LSD to LSA, Hawaiian Bewilder seeds to Morning Glory seeds, I love all the Lysergamides. They're a very interesting class of psychedelics. It's just they're all slightly different from each other, and the ones that are the closest to each other are like things like 1P LSD or regular LSD or ALD 52 or Ethlad or things like that. They're all very, very, very similar, and when it comes to different structured molecules, they're honestly some of the most similar molecules um, on the planet. Like, if take the idea of DMT and psilocin, the main difference is just the oxygen and hydrogen on the top of the DMT right here, basically. But that causes a drastic difference in the effects and everything else. But when it comes to the Lysergamites, if you take, LSD and then you make 1P LSD or you make ALD 52 or you make something else, then the differences are very, very, very small. And it's so hard to be able to tell the differences. some just might not feel as complete. LSD just feels a little more complete. Others might give a little more anxiety. Others might give a little more less God connection type thing, uh, less wisdom, less madness. Because LSD can get a little maddening, um, especially at high doses. Um, but yeah, the sorghamites are very interesting. And that's why I'm very interested to try mescaline, and I would love to try the 2Cs, but getting the 2Cs is very, very hard. I can't find a way to get any of the 2Cs. I'm really interested to try 2CC, 2CB, 2CI, but finding these things is the most complicated thing ever. I'm also going to be trying a bunch of other things. Mysterious Noob Life says I need to try bath salts. Bath salts are things I probably won't try, mainly because these are all things that are hard to get because they're all illegal. Now, some of the research chemicals that are still legal in a gray area, I'll be getting some of those, like some molecules that are entheogens, so molecules that basically give similar effects or that are similarly shaped to MDMA. Uh, and some of the bath salts, like some of the cathinones, like methylone or butylone, some of those things can do that. But I'm not going to be getting any of those. I'm going to be trying things that, uh, I guess there's just a few things that I want to try that, I guess are safe. I've been researching as much research chemicals as I possibly can, and then I research the safety of them, the LD50 of them, the addiction issue of them, and I go from there to see which ones I should try or which ones are even safe enough for me to try. Because I'm addicted to kratom, right? I could bluntly say that I'm addicted to kratom. I don't want to be addicted to anything else. So like and because I've never done meth, I've never done cocaine. Um, I don't want to do things that only work on dopamine. So, like when I research some of the bath salts or some of the cathinones or some of this or some of those, um, they they work on dopamine in such a similar way that meth does or a similar way that cocaine does. So, in from my research, they would give a similar feeling to that. I would rather work with the molecules, with the research chemicals that work on dopamine and serotonin, just like MDMA works on dopamine and serotonin, because then it would be more in that category of substance. Um, so I just have this like kind of balance thing where I'm very picky when it comes to the substances I put in my body. And a lot of people wouldn't really know that because it looks like I do a lot of drugs. But really, I'm very, very, very cautious with the drugs that I use. Um, because I wouldn't want to be addicted to anything else. Like I'm actually addicted. But hmm? Oh yeah, I'm gonna pack it right now. Mysterious Noob Life says solved. Um, I don't know if you tried to send a link or something, um, but yeah, bro, I'm definitely like into There was one that I've researched called MDAI. I really want to try. Um, 5 MAPB, uh, 6 APB, 5 APB. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure like those are the ones that I really wanted to try. Those are the ones I researched the most. Um, and shit, 6 APB was created to be a non-neurotoxic version of MDMA, a safer version, because MDMA um is, like I said, is as good as it is, it can damage the serotonin receptors. So there are some empathogens that were created that don't cause serotonin damage, but things like MDAI. A lot of people say MDAI is boring. A lot of people don't like it, but I have a feeling that I'm gonna love it because I'm not necessarily into getting necessarily fucked up. I'm trying to find substances to help benefit my life. So like in whatever way that means, you know? Because people are like, we're talking about MDAI isn't as intense as MDMA, so like, you know, it's boring. But like if they wanted MDMA, they should have took MDMA. MDA MDAI is MDAI. It's its own thing. So like I just can't wait to try all these different things. You know, just like when I was, you know, when I tried Boldine or, you know, with the aporphine alkaloids, I just love to explore. And the more I explore with all these different molecules, the more I'm finding out that, you know, things that are attached to the 5-HT2A receptors, you know, the psychedelic receptors, they all have a similar something, but they're all slightly different. You know, same thing with the opioids. Kratom attaches to the opioid receptors. So does Suboxone. So does heroin. So does morphine. So does opium. So does a lot of things, but they all feel slightly different from one another. Um, you know, cannabis, Delta 8 and Delta 9, even though they're very similar molecules, they feel slightly different from one another. And those are the fucking interesting things that I'm just so interested in when it comes to drugs and molecules and plants. You know, it's one of the things that kind of drives me on this path is figuring out the differences in these things from personal experience. And you know, also making sure I research the safety and, you know, the LD50 and all that, because the substances I want to do are things that I want to unintentionally be healing myself, like I do with cannabis. I don't use cannabis medicinally, but it is like a um, I don't know, like a medicinal preventative type thing. Um, Chemicals are great safe test of chemical. College teacher used them back in the day. Apparently. Fuck yeah, bro. Some Alchemy podcast, you're fucking awesome, bro. Nazir, what's going on? Phenethylamine, some Alchemy podcast. A lot of people talk about like it doesn't work unless you have an MAOI, but some people say with an MAOI it gives a nice effect. And without the MAOI, some people say you got to take like 2 grams of it, which I am always very cautious. If I have to take 2 grams of a white powdered pure drug, um, it just worries me. That's why like I like substances where the dose is low, but the LD50 is high. So like if the dose that gets you high is low and the dose that kills you is extremely high, there's no way you'll even get near the dose that kills you. But Geekling says 5-HT2A and the 5H10A receptors are your best friends and worst enemy depending if you are on any agonist. Um, Honestly, when it comes to the 5-HT2A and the serotonin receptors, um, serotonin receptors must be used with caution because you can get serotonin syndrome um, when mixing things, you know. But honestly, 5-HT2B is actually more of kind of our worst enemy because the 5-HT2B receptor has been associated with cardiovascular damage, so causing damage to our vascular system. So it's just things that attach to the 5-HT2B receptor, and a lot of psychedelics do just have to be used with caution. And some molecules only work on the 5-HT2B and like not the other ones, and those are things that have to be used with more caution. Just be cautious with your heart and things like that, and don't want to mix it with other things that affect the heart. And when it comes to drugs and substances, I think we need to be extremely educated, but we're nowhere near as educated as we should be in this world when it comes to drugs. But Nazir says, have you ever tried MDMA with Vicks and glow sticks? No, I have not. But I have tried MDMA with yeah, I've tried MDMA. It was fucking beautiful. Geeklink says I'm on a Abilify and can't take shrooms. Um, my my thing with all those substances is I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell someone, yo, don't take this substance. But me personally, I would never take Abilify or any other thing because I know that there are plants that I can take that attach to similar receptors that those things do, and that are just more effective for me and my lifestyle, because then it doesn't affect me with taking mushrooms or affect me with taking other substances. Um, it's kind of why I don't use canna, even though canna is a plant. Canna is a natural SSRI, so if I took canna, it would affect me using something like MDMA or something like psychedelics, because substances like that will change the psychedelic effect. It can have the possibility to change the whole effect of the psychedelic or whatever substance you're taking when you're mixing it with Abilify or anything else other like that. Because I have friends that are on things like that, and he can't take psychedelics anymore either because he's on things like that. But he's on things like that for a reason though. But I just know a lot of people's reasons aren't as serious as his reasons. So I know a lot of people, it's just a matter of facing their problems and facing reality in a sense without that crutch. Because I hate the medical system we have today because they use drugs as a crutch instead of using substances to genuinely heal us, and then you're no longer on the drug. They put you on a substance as a crutch to constantly need the drug, and then you get addicted to the drug because but Abilify has uh I guess everything has its own, in a sense, withdrawals. um but Geeklink says, now the problem with drugs is people say that they need the drugs or else they this or that. Really, the main problem is our problem is always ourself. And I never mean to come off rude or whatever the fuck, right? But I had this conversation with my girl earlier, and a lot of people would be like, "Yo, that was kind of a heated conversation." But me and my girl talk like this all the time, and I always, keep it real, which is that all of our problems are us. Me personally, so I can only talk about me, but me, I used to self harm. So I used to have cuts up. So right now I have scars up and down my thigh because I used to self harm. Now I used to use certain things as a crutch or an excuse or whatever as a reason to self harm, or I wanted people to feel bad for me, or I wanted someone to help me, or I wanted whatever. So I would say that I would use, whatever. But reality is that it was all me. I chose to not appreciate my life. So I chose to think about death. I chose to think about suicide, which is so stupid because you usually only think about suicide when you're young and dumb. Because I'm only 27 years old, but when I first started self harming and things like that, I was pretty young. and I was going through problems. I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to be a man and toughen up and be strong about it. And I was in therapy from 5 years old up until I was like 12 years old. Um, I fucking cut my grandmother when I was 5 years old. Uh, but the thing is, I've realized that therapy doesn't help. Nothing, drugs don't help. Nothing helps but you. Unless you want it to help, it won't help. Like, it's not the therapist that helps because there are other human beings on the planet that can say the same thing. The main thing with the therapist is that we've been kind of conditioned to trust the therapist. We've been conditioned to trust our doctors. We've been conditioned to trust these people because we think they know. But these people have just as much problems as we do, most likely more. Reality is that everyone thinks of suicide. Reality is that, well, not everyone, because you want to know the crazy thing is my mother, who, grew up, kind of poor and who is on food stamps and disability and all this, has never thought about suicide once in her life. She, like, is one of the most strongest women I've ever met in my entire life. Now, when I told her I thought about suicide and I, all these things, she was kind of like what the fuck type shit, because it kind of caught her by surprise because she's never thought those thoughts a day in her life. Even though she had a bad father and a bad childhood and this and that, she kind of taught me that life is about the way you deal with it, not about what happens to you. When I was 10 years old, I watched my mom lose the house. Her mom died. Well, so her mom died when I was 3, gave her the house, but she couldn't really take care of the house or pay for the house or whatever. So she lost the house when I was 10, and my mom went through a lot of shit. But never have I really seen my mom bitch about it. She always said, stay strong, keep moving forward, don't get caught up on the past. And all those things stuck with me when I was a kid. Now, the crazy thing is that I think the key is to not get caught up on what, basically just to get so focused on you, empowering you, and to become the best you can be. And to become the best you can be is understand that you're gonna go through days where you're like, yo, fuck this life, this shit sucks. But realize that that's most likely the dumb child inside of all of us. We all have a dumb child in us, and we all have a wise, grown ass adult in us. And we have to get more closer to that wise grown ass adult, meaning that, like, so the human that we are right now, try to genuinely think how you will think in 30 years. 30 years from today, you will not have the same reactions that you would right now. So yeah, Mysterious New Life says the insecure fear that isn't real. The reality of the world is all of our fears most likely are fake manifestations of our imagination. That, like, they're delusions that we put on ourselves based on what we think about ourselves. But what we think about ourselves might not even be right. It might not be correct. And so the truth is that you're God. The truth is that we are all God. The truth is that we are all very extremely powerful entities and beings. We just don't realize that. We don't realize our power. We don't realize that our thoughts generally create reality. So it's about not allowing yourself to think thoughts. So when I used to self-harm and have cuts on my thighs and shit. Now I'm like, I do not allow myself to cut myself anymore. It's I don't make the excuse. I don't give a fuck what I feel like. I don't give a shit if I'm sad. Then I'm gonna fucking cry. I'm not gonna cut myself, or I'm not gonna think about suicide. I'm gonna fucking cry and I'm gonna shatter. And then after I'm done crying and done shattering, I'm gonna get the fuck up and probably make a video or make a song or listen to something. Or um I think life is just generally about realizing that everything is your mind. Everything. Your reality is your entire mind. That two humans can have the same reality is, oh shit. connections stopping. Let me tell you, every time I speak the fucking truth, they try to interrupt my connection. But let me tell you, it's the truth though. Truth is, everything is on you. And no one wants to hear that. That's why we take substances from our therapist. That's why we go to therapy. That's why some people pay $2,000 to go to some Gary V like seminar or some fucking Tony Robbins seminar or some shit like that. But realistically, all of that is none of it will help. The $2,000 seminar, the reading 100 books a year, the going to business school or going to philosophy school or taking drugs to help your depression, none of this is going to help. The truth of the matter is, if you really want to help, you have to think about what your problem is and think about a solution to the problem and then put the footwork action into it. You have to push forward, gain that strength, gain the mental strength. It's the push-up effect. So we all know that some people can do 50 push-ups, some people can only do 5 push-ups. But the person that can only do 5 push-ups, they can only do 5 push-ups because that's their choice. They think that they say that I can only do 5 push-ups. So they think, they don't have a choice. I can't do anymore. That's bullshit. Why can the person that can do 50 push-ups do 50 push-ups? Because they practiced. They practiced and practiced and practiced until they could do 50 push-ups. If you can only do 5 push-ups right now, you need to practice and practice and practice until you can get to 50. And that metaphor right there is my explanation for, I guess, helping with depression, helping with anxiety, helping with wanting to start a business, helping with wanting to do a career, wanting to, do anything in your life, is that that if you don't do the push-ups, you will never be able to do the 50 push-ups. If you don't practice, you'll never get there. And it's the truth. So if you're taking a drug trying to get rid of your depression, you'll always be depressed because you'll always rely on something else to get rid of your depression instead of actually just being happy. The cure to depression is actually just being happy. The cure to uh, suicide, the cure to suicidal thoughts is just generally living and having more living thoughts, having more thoughts that make you feel alive, doing more things that make you feel alive, doing things that set your soul on fire. And the things that set my soul on fire are not going to be the same things that set your soul on fire. But how I got rid of my anxiety, my depression, because I felt it all. I had anxiety attacks so bad that I couldn't breathe, that it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. But I've gotten rid of it all. With mushrooms, I got rid of my anxiety. With LSD have helped apply and helped with my confidence and be more confident in some of the things that I've learned, because a lot of things I've learned I wasn't as confident with being able to tell other people about it. Now I'm so confident, and I've used these psychedelic tools to help gain control of my consciousness. I've used meditation to help empower my consciousness, and it all goes back to the working out thing. When you work out your arms, you could do more push-ups. When you work out your mind, you can handle more stress. You can handle more bullshit, and the bullshit won't affect you. You can go through a breakup with a girlfriend and not completely lose yourself because you were mentally strong. Mentally, there's this weird thing with life that we don't want to admit the truth. So we can admit the truth when it comes to physical appearances. You can admit the truth that, if the 5 push-ups thing compared to the 50 push-ups thing, you can admit the truth. You see a man with giant big ass arms, he could do more push-ups than a man with smaller arms. That's facts. But why are we so trying to be so politically correct and so whatever when it comes to depression or anxiety or all these other things when it comes to the mind and mental strength. So mental strength, there's like this weird politically correct people like don't want to, they're walking on eggshells type shit because they don't want to make people feel bad. But I'm not about whether someone feels bad or not. That's a personal choice on their end. Whether someone takes words and it affects their emotions is really on them. Words are just words. If you generally hear what someone's saying or not is on you. Now that's why we go to therapists, because therapists learn how to speak correctly in a sense. But it's a really weird thing that um I don't know. I've just been there. Like I said, I was in therapy from 5 years old until I was like 12, and it didn't fucking help at all. What helped was taking ayahuasca. What helped was taking mushrooms. What helped was taking LSD. What helped was smoking DMT. What helped was taking all these plants and herbs like motherwort and blue lotus and meditation. Meditation helped a lot. And generally, just thinking about why I'm sad. You know, um, but all this is a part of growing up, right? This is all a part of becoming, for me on my journey, because I'm a man. This was all about becoming a man. The difference between a boy and a man is a man has control of himself, has mental strength, has self control, has self discipline, has, there's certain traits that a man has that a boy does not. And like when I was cutting my thighs, I was a boy because I didn't understand life, because I thought I was going through pain then. I didn't know pain, right? Like I have, so when I lost my son to the foster care system, that was pain, right? Like before that, I thought I knew pain. So when I was homeless on the streets in the cold with snow on the ground, that was pain. Before that, I thought pain was the bullshit with my mom, or my mom arguing with me, or whatever the fuck. But no, pain was when my mom said get the fuck out and she didn't let me back, even though it was snow outside. Like that was pain. But what I've realized about all the experiences I've gone through in my life, good and bad, is all of them made me a much stronger person mentally. I can handle so much mental stress because I don't allow the bullshit around me to affect me. It doesn't matter what goes on around me. It doesn't matter how much problems, drama, whatever. I will always be me. Um, I've accepted that there will be people in my life that I love that will die, because I've had 12 people that I went to high school with die from the opioid epidemic. Um, Someone just died less than a month ago, that I went to high school with. And like, I guess I've become so numb to death that it didn't even really phase me, because I was just like, well, another one, another person I know that I went to high school with, laughed with, shared memories with, uh, died. Like it's just life is suffering. The one thing I've learned from researching Buddhism is Buddha was all about learning how to deal with the suffering of the world. And he explained that life is suffering. And the reason why I was suicidal and I was anxious, anxiety usually comes from living a life you're not fucking meant to live. Like when your soul is so anxious, it's usually because it's sick and tired of being whatever the fuck you're forcing it to be. Because usually anxiety is when you're forcing yourself to be someone you're not. You're forcing yourself to do things you wouldn't do, to think thoughts you wouldn't think. People usually think about the future and they're anxious, right? Because they don't know how to get there. Instead of thinking about the future, saying, I want a better future, but I don't know how to get there. And now I'm anxious because, the life I have now is fucked. And I don't know what's going to happen. Change your whole way of thinking and think about your solutions. Think about, I'm not where I want to be right now, but how do I get where I want to be? And that's it. Don't get anxious about it. Be logical about it. Be very practical about it. And just do. Focus on focus. It's all about learning how to focus the mind, training the mind, and then you work on it every day. And then, like, repetition, repetition, repetition. Eventually, it'll become a habit, and your thoughts will change. Because if you, like, people say, this is the way I think, and this is how I've always thought. That's some dumb excuse that all humans say to have an excuse to stay the same. But for people who say they want to change so bad, we're so attached to who we don't want to be, right? Like, people say, yeah, this is who I've always been, but they say they want to change, but then they had say the same bullshit of this is who I've always been. But if you keep saying this is who I've always been, that's who you'll always be. Because you are whatever you say, you are whatever you think. Humans don't understand how deep that goes. So you should never say you're anxious. You should never say you're depressed. You have a little bit of sadness right now. You have a little bit of fear right now. With the anxiety, what the fuck are you scared of? With the depression, what are you sad about? Because depression, like Dr. Joe Dispenza said, is when you're basically sad about something that happened to you 9 months ago, or if you're sad about something that happened to you 5 years ago, and you're still letting that thing that happened to you 5 years ago affect you today, or letting that thing that happened to you 6 months ago affect you today. Um, and the key to becoming an adult is learning how to train your mind to let go of problems that happen to you as fast as possible, because you don't want to cause damage to your own brain. You want to be in control of your brain. You don't want your emotions to be in control of you. So many people say they're depressed, so they take medication or they do this or they do that. But really, the only way you'll fix your depression is by facing the depression, by facing it and seeing, what the fuck am I sad about? And generally asking yourself, what are you sad about? And if it's a genuine reason, then cry. Like, if maybe your mom died, or maybe, something really tragic happened to you. Maybe something tragic happened in your past, in your childhood, some extreme past trauma. Then yeah, that can cause real depression, real anxiety. And yes, you have to deal with that and let it out. But a lot of us in this world today, we have this false depression, this false anxiety. And I don't want to, like, knock on anyone else's depression or anxiety and say theirs is less worse than others, but this is reality, that people in the world, some people have it worse than others. And why is it that people in third world countries are happier than people in America? People in America have more anxiety and depression than people in third world countries that have dirt floors. This doesn't really make much sense. Um, and I think it's because in America, we get so attached to having things, and then when we don't have those things, we fucking freak out and have depression. And I hate to say it, but America is like the spoiled children of the planet, because we don't get how privileged we are, how lucky we are, to just be in America, to have certain things. So that's why when I used to be suicidal and I used to cut my thighs and I used to think about, things, suicidal thoughts and whatever, I realized how selfish I was being, considering I have children, considering I have people that love me, considering I have things I want to do with my life, and considering that the creator created me for a reason, and I have ideas that no one else can do, just like you have ideas that no one else can do. And if you're a painter, you have paintings that no one else can paint, and that is your fucking duty as a human being, to fucking paint those paintings, to do what you were meant to do. And sometimes we just don't realize how lucky we are to be alive. It doesn't matter how fucked up the world is. It doesn't matter if coronavirus kills half of us on this planet. We are still so lucky to be alive in the first place. Would we have preferred to die? People only think about suicide because they have no idea what death is like. If they did, they would appreciate the pains of life. They would appreciate life's suffering. Because something I've learned over the years is I've learned to love the suffering of life. I love the pain. I love the suffering. I love to cry. I love to shatter. I love when shit goes wrong in my life because it gives me an opportunity to grow, to become a better man, to prove myself to myself. Because I don't really care what other people think about me, but I definitely care what I think about me. So, like, sometimes when life hits me hard and when shit goes wrong, I love the fact that I'm, I don't know, that I usually choose the right way, right? So it's like when shit goes wrong, whatever, have an opportunity to like maybe steal or rob to maybe make some money when I don't have any money, and I do not do it. I'd rather be poor, I'd rather go broke, I'd rather starve. I'm sorry, family, we're not going to eat tonight because I refused to rob from that person or steal that, and I got to wait to make some money or whatever. Now, not that that has happened, but what I'm saying is that's what I'd prefer to do because that's the type of man I am. And like, I've realized that that's what life has become about for me is like, it's not about what things I have, it's not about how much money I have, it's not about any of that. It's about who am I? And like, I didn't want to be defined as someone who was depressed. I I don't ever want to take medication from a doctor because I'm fucking more educated on the drugs than the doctor is. The doctor has no idea what receptors the fucking molecules attached to. He's not a chemist. He's a doctor, and he's probably not even a doctor that specifies in drugs. So like, we trust people, these people for no reason. Like, so I don't know. I went on this whole rant on this whole fucking thing, but like, I don't know. I guess it's just because this is a serious problem in our country today, in our world today. Humans are getting weaker instead of stronger, and I mean mentally. Um, we're not prepared for the bullshit. We're not prepared for the wild world. We're not prepared for the jungle. The jungle will eat us alive, right? And I've been preparing for the jungle, literally and metaphorically. But I think this is all about just becoming the best version of you. That's what life is. So at 15, I was nowhere near as strong, as powerful, as mentally strong, and as mentally confident and capable as I am today at 27. So, like, it's just taken me years of practice and practice to genuinely not give a fuck what people think about me. That's generally a mental strength thing. Like, I don't really care. I don't care what anyone thinks about me. 5 years ago, I used to care what people thought about me. But like, now it's just like, it's taken me years to understand that the only person that matters about me is me. Like, when it comes to the opinion of me, and all that matters is like, if somebody's judging me for what I do, if I'm happy, and then who are they, right? You know what I mean? Like, and that's the key right there. Is the key to how I beat my depression is just by being happy. Mysterious Midlife says the biggest problem in the world, I tell people all the time, is people are too insecure and will never grow up. They're too afraid to admit when they're wrong. They're too worried about what people think. I agree. Um, the thing there is that I really like how you said people are too afraid to admit when they're wrong. That's really true because my thing is I love being wrong. I love it when people prove me wrong. And my problem is my ego kind of runs with that. So like, I tend to not speak unless I've fact checked a million times to make sure what I'm saying is right. So when I'm in a conversation with somebody, it tends to piss people off because like they want to be like, you don't always got to be right, yada yada. And I'm just in my head like, well, I've done like a week of fucking research on this topic and read many scientific articles and all this other shit, so I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm saying is correct, and I'm not trying to say that with ego. I'm not trying to make someone's ego feel less than, but the problem is with sometimes with conversations is humans get so egotistical and get so defensive that they want to be right more than they want to have the right information in their head. So they'd rather speak the wrong information because they think they're right instead of having someone tell them the correct information because it makes them feel less than, right? Like, it just basically, if somebody gives you the right information, you've been spitting the wrong information, you just got your ego punched in the face. But that's why I've loved DMT, because DMT has taught me how to love getting my ego punched in the face. I love to be wrong because of my experiences with DMT, because DMT has showed me every single trip that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, that I'm fucking wrong, that I that we thought we knew life, we thought we knew who we were, we thought we were physical beings, we thought we were this, we thought we were that, but we were all fucking wrong, right? So that's why I say thoughts create reality. That's why I have my opinion on uh, depression and anxiety and not using medication and all this shit. It's from my experiences with DMT. My smoked experiences with DMT have taught me lessons, have told me things, have showed me things, and these things have kind of showed me that our thoughts are our reality. It is not has nothing to do with the drugs we take. It has nothing to do whether you're in a relationship or not. It has nothing to do with whether you are rich or not. It all has to do with what thoughts are in your mind. That's it. It's a very simple formula. Life is a formula, like a math formula. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. And it's just that. But yeah. But yeah. But that music says COVID has proven how feeble minded our society has become. I agree with that. Because, like, I don't really wear a mask. I don't do anything. If I get COVID, I get COVID. If I don't, I don't. Who gives a fuck? Like, we gotta adapt to this virus anyways, because it's not going anywhere. So, like, either our immune system adapts to it, and we have children, and our children's immune system is now more adapted to the virus, or we hide from the virus and then have children, and then our children's immune system has no fucking defense against the virus whatsoever. It's just like how we got used to any other virus on this planet is by getting the virus gets entered into our world. Some people die, some people don't. The people that don't have children, and those children have children, and those children will be basically immune to the virus. Um, and that's just genetics. It's DNA. It's Mother Nature doesn't give a fuck about our feelings, right? The world, the universe, God, whatever the fuck you want to call it, does not give a shit about our personal feelings. It cares about the whole, not about the individual. So, like, the individual, on the individual level, it's a sad thing that yes, people are going to die from this virus, but on the whole spectrum, eventually the human species will build an immunity to this virus, using, with our body's natural version to use CRISPR and all these other shit. We eventually will build an immunity to it, just like we have with anything else. But But yeah. But I hope you guys have a fucking awesome night. And yeah, it's been dope vibing. But I will see you guys in the next live stream. And yeah.